Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Mystery Channel. I'm your host, Mystery, and today I'd like to do a little bit of a retrospective on the MMO Adventures that I've been putting up on the channel. I think 6 is a pretty good number, and I'm very comfortable to go ahead and put this little experiment up on the shelf for now. But doesn't mean I'm not going to do any more in the future. Just means that for right now, I'm pretty happy with what I've got. I think 6 is a very solid number for this, and yeah, I just want to take some time to kick back, relax, and talk about what that's been like, because these have been very, very different videos than what I've done so far on the channel. I guess first and foremost, let's go in order, really. EverQuest. Started with EverQuest. I knew I wanted to do an MMO video. I knew I wanted to do a video or two on MMORPGs. And I knew at some point I wanted to do EverQuest. But I didn't really have a plan, per se. Non-scripted. Or true professional. No, I had finished up the who's its, the what's its, the King's Quest its. That's it. The King's Quest marathon, and I didn't know really what to do next, and I was gonna just kind of go probably do like Conquest of Camelot or something, or a Colonel's Bequest right away or something. And I didn't feel like doing it at the time. And I ended up one night having some free time on my hands. And I said, you know what? I haven't scheduled anything around this. I haven't planned for this. I don't really have a plan in mind for this. Sounds like a perfect time to record EverQuest. And so I hopped on the computer and booted up the game and booted up Bandicam and set about doing it. And boy, let me tell you what, it was a real lesson in time management. Whatever I had hoped I was going to do with EverQuest, I very quickly realized I was not going to do with EverQuest. I had some cockamamie plan in my head that I'll just boot up the game and I'll just press record and I'll just talk my way through the character creation, say a couple things, do my little intro shtick, and then we'll be on our way. And then I quickly realized, it's been like 45 minutes and we haven't done a quest. We haven't killed anything. We've done nothing. And I had to think on the fly with that one. And the thing about it is, if it hadn't have been good, like if it hadn't worked out, what's the worst that could happen, right? Like, I spend some time, I play a game that I do enjoy, I make a recording, I talk my way through it, and then I listen to it back, and I delete it, and nobody ever knows it happened, right? Except for me. So I wanted to give it a fair shake. So I started to just do little, just like 2 or 3 minutes worth of recordings after that. Just if I thought something was coming up that'd be cool, or if I knew something was coming up that would be cool, or if I suddenly had a thought pop into my head, I'd hit record, then talk about it, then end the recording. So it was a different file, right? Like a different video saved in the folder. And it was all just done in one night on the fly. And it probably shows. But, it was a lot of fun. The real challenge came when it was time to edit the video. It's a completely different monster to, anything I had done before that. I've done a fade in here and a fade out there, blah blah blah, but this was a completely different beast altogether. And I got all the clips in there, and it was massive. It was, like 2 hours, 2.5 hours or something. It was like 2 hours long. And I started trimming and chopping and cutting and everything else and sticking them together in the editor. And I'll find the picture and put it up right around here. But I finally got done, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. I've done this. I sure hope it's gonna look okay. And I told it to render, and I got a big fat error message that said it had crashed. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, it was one thing to, let's say I played through the game and I recorded it, and it crashed. Or not crashed, I'm sorry. Let's say I played through the game, recorded it, wasn't happy, so I scrapped the recording. It's another thing to play through the game, record it, and then go through the full process of editing it, and right at the finish line have it say, no, I wasn't going to have it. And so I spent hours, days, and I didn't have time then. My day off was over, and I was back to business as usual. So then I'd come back when I did have time, and I'd try this and that, crash. Finally, I figured out what it was. Essentially, and I'll put some visual aids up here. Essentially, you've got video track A and video track B. And I'll go into some of this in more detail in another video later. But you got video track A and video track B. And you have them set to, snap to 1/8 of a note. I believe for the EverQuest I was doing a half note. But snap to 1/8 of a note. Because Mixcraft Home Studio 6, which is what I have, natively cannot do MP4s. It can only do AVI and WMV. It can do it. It can register an MP4 if you have a codec pack, which I do now. But without that, it can't register an MP4 at all. So if you had a WMV or an AVI and the two video tracks overlapped each other, it would be fine. But if you have an MP4 track and that overlaps itself, even by a fraction of a margin, crashes. It just crashes. So I had to go in, clip by clip, and manually fine-tune every single connector in order to get it to work. And of course I finally did. I finally got it, and that felt like I had just, conquered Mount Olympus when it finally happened. But I had recorded that, in April, and I didn't have it actually functioning until not too long before I uploaded it in May. So that was an experience. As for the video itself, because I didn't script anything, it's just me playing through. Really, it wasn't so much an exercise in video making. I guess it is, but it was much more an exercise in video editing. All of these MMOs have been an exercise in video editing and getting comfortable with that, as opposed to like making a script and planning something in the game or something like that, which is very hard to do. It's been a very interesting and very enlightening journey to go down. I'll tell you that. There are some things about the game I wish I had touched on more. EverQuest, a brand new free account, has 2 character slots by default. You can get an extra 3, and I think I do talk about this. You can get an extra 3 either separately or in a bundle via the store. But if you want more than that, you have to be a subscriber, because you have to start gaining loyalty points, and you can only buy additional character slots past number 5, from 6 and upwards, through a loyalty program that you get from being an active sub. And there's other things that kind of irk me. There were some pop-ups in the video from the game like, hey, get all access pass. The thing that really bugs me, the thing that actually gets me, is anytime you log out in EverQuest, it automatically opens a browser or a tab on your browser, or opens your browser to go to the EverQuest website, to the All Access membership sign-up page. And it's every time. You could log into a character, put something in the bank, in your shared bank, log out to go onto the other character to go grab it. Bam, it goes to that website. Grab the thing, log that character back out to go to another character. Bam, it goes to that website. It's like walking down the street in a big city, and the dude hops out from the alleyway and like swings his trench coat open. It's like, hey kid, you want to buy a watch? Like it's it's ridiculous. But for all that, like the viral advertising in the game, the game itself is still fun and magical, and it's got a great player base. And in addition to that, they have officially hosted the time lock progression servers that they're constantly doing stuff on and experimenting with different rule sets. And the game's doing great. And if anybody's ever interested in experiencing EverQuest and journeying through the world of Norath, I highly recommend. Because what's it going to cost you? A little bit of your time to download and update it. It's totally free. You can get it direct, or you can get it through Steam, through a Steam launcher too. So, EverQuest, I love it. Hope to see some of y'all out there. Old school RuneScape. Man, I did the EverQuest video and I hadn't gotten it edited, and I was like, well, I'm not making any progress on this. Let me get another game recorded, so at least I have something on the backlog. And I wish that I had been on a server with more population on it, and I wish I had done it at a better time, because I did that one in the middle of the night. So I was kind of alone, and there's so many people who play it. It was a bad representation. There are tons of people who play OSRS. So that my video is kind of a bad representation. You really don't see other players until like the very end, and that's 100% my fault. It's the server I was on and the time I was playing. Gosh, what a magical game. It's so great. I love that something like OSRS still exists, or does exist rather, so that we can be able to go back and play the older versions of these games that keep changing. Change is one of those things that it's inevitable, but a lot of these companies, they make changes to the game because they think it's what players want. And that's not really what players want. You look at pretty much any of these games and the way they evolve over the years, and their player base goes down. It doesn't go up, it goes down. RuneScape is a great example of that. EverQuest, it was in a bad place for a while, and it kind of brought its audience back. But, like World of Warcraft, oh, Jesus. God, no. These companies, they make these arbitrary changes to the game for nothing more than making it. And RuneScape was a real testament to how much people just want to be able to enjoy something fun and something for themselves. And not, have to go upgrade their computer because the latest expansion requires better components from your setup in order to even play it. It's a wonderful little game, and it's so fun, and you can meet so many wonderful people there and go on so many wonderful adventures, again, completely for free. comes jam-packed with a whole free player set of quests and everything. And they've added, I think I do touch on it a little bit in the video, they added these like adventure paths that kind of give you a goal to work towards. And that's really nifty, I think. I think that's really nifty, and I'm very much in support of that. But OSRS was a lesson in learning. OSRS and Lotro as well was a lesson in doing my research before opening my mouth, basically. I had nothing but good things to say about Jagex and the job they were doing with OSRS until I got to Varrock. Now, Jagex has had a couple different kind of controversies and stuff, not just with the company. There's one kind of recent that's not really applicable here. It's kind of overblown drama, if you want my opinion. It's just some, like, one or two admins were being naughty. But, they had some drama a while ago that I did know about where they tried to inject politics into the game and had massive backlash. I get to Varrock and I'm touting in the video, I'm talking about how, it's so great that they haven't changed anything. And I get there and the Varrock city guards have all been changed. They went from looking like this to looking like this, as well as a smattering of other styles. And I ran and looked it up, and apparently it was a diversity and inclusion update to the game. Now RuneScape is a pretty diverse game, always has been. I mean, back when I was, first playing around it, nobody talked about diversity and inclusion in video games. We thought the Arabian place looked cool because Arabian style is cool. We thought that the jungle place looked cool because the jungle stuff was cool, We weren't caught up in this BS like we are today, where we just have to keep boiling people down to the color of their skin and everything like that. And I know that the version of the guards they took out of the city is not the original version. It's from, I think, 2007. I could be mistaken. But OSRS is essentially the 2007-2008 version of the game. And they took them out to stick, guards of multiple skin colors and ethnicities and male and female in there. Why couldn't they have just had a middle ground? Why couldn't they have just made a little edit to the guards like this, if it was really that important to them? The guards don't play a very important part in the game. If anything, the most important thing that they do is they exist to be ruthlessly murdered by players in the streets of the city for hours on end. I'm sure the death toll of the Varrock City Guards is in the billions by this point. So it's a really small thing to get hung up on, but it's like, it's that arbitrary change. The mission statement is to not make changes to the game. So you make changes to the game. Now there's other stuff, that wasn't supposed to be there, and I talk about it. I didn't show the quest off in the video, but there's a Scream themed kind of Halloween quest that was part of a Halloween event at some point, and the fan community voted to have it included. And so down in Lumbridge, in the Lumbridge Swamp, there's 2 NPCs by the shore who didn't used to be there, and then you can talk to them and you get an extra quest for the free player area. That's fine. That's something added in, but it's not something taken away. You know, I do know that I do understand there are people who don't like the style of the Varrock guards, but I always thought they were super cool because nobody else looked like that. Nobody else had armor like that. And I remember the first time I ran into them when I was playing, I remember thinking how cool they looked, how I wanted a shield like that, how I, maybe not necessarily the color, I was never really that into yellow, but how I wish that I could have armor that looked like that. I thought it was really cool looking. And, now they're gone. No, they're gone for really no reason. And when your mission statement is to preserve things, you're supposed to preserve them. And so I really feel like that's a bad move, in my opinion. You know. That being said, it is still and I'm very well aware it's an incredibly small thing to be upset about, and the game as it is, the game itself as a whole, is still just completely magical. I highly recommend anybody who, wants something that's a little less intensive, a little more idle. Not an idle game, don't get it twisted, but something that's, not super hardcore or involved. I think RuneScape could easily be the game for you. And of course, if you then upgraded your account and opened yourself up to a whole massive world, RuneScape is huge. Like, it's physically just gigantic. I don't think I did a good job showing that off in the video. Again, none of these were scripted. I did have a rough time editing RuneScape, though, because I wanted to do the fade-ins and fade-outs. So I had to, because they were all MP4s by default of Bandicam, I had to render each one down to an to a WMV, and then put it back into Mixcraft in order to layer them. Because again, you can't do that with an MP4 on Mixcraft, or it'll crash. And somehow segment 7, and I don't remember which clip it was, but it was basically essentially it's like segment 19 and segment 14 somehow swapped, and so the video was horribly out of whack. Like, I'm doing something basic, and then suddenly I'm towards the end of the video, and then I'm back to doing something basic, like with the goblins. And so I had to re-render the whole video. Oh, that was a mess. But still, learned a lot. Had a really fun time with it. Can't recommend it enough. DDO. I didn't know what to do after old school RuneScape. I knew that I wanted to have at least 4 of these videos, and I had already said I wanted to do Project 1999. So I was kind of scratching my head. It's like, well, should I do Lotro? Because I really wanted to talk about Lotro. But at the time, I felt like my computer couldn't handle it. So then I was kind of struggling, well, what should I do? And for some reason, I glanced over. I still had DDO. I haven't touched it in God knows how many years, but it was still installed on the computer. I've got a bunch of games just installed that I haven't touched in ages. Excuse me. And so I just said, heck with it. Why not? It was really kind of a rush decision, because I said 4 doesn't feel right. I'm going to do 6. Well, if I'm going to do 6, I don't want to do 2 a month. I want to do 3 this month and then 3 for June, because I don't want these going into July. Since that's going to be the 1-year anniversary on the channel. Hey, foreshadow here. So I get it going, and I don't really know what I have to talk about with it. And so it was very much a new player experience, as opposed to being something that I do know, and it's not so much I'm reminding myself of it, as much as it's a I have no idea what I'm doing feeling. And this is the one that opened my eyes to realizing you never really know what you have until it's done. Because I knew without a shadow of a doubt. I said, there's not a whole lot here, you know. EverQuest and OSRS both clocked in at roughly 1 hour and 20 minutes. It was like an hour and 17 or an hour and 18 for EverQuest, and then like an hour and 23 for RuneScape. So it was like, it's right in that pocket, right? And I said, I don't, this is going to be the shortest video. This is only going to be like a 45-minute video, maybe 50 at best. I got done putting the clips in for DDO, and I had 2 hours and 40-something minutes of just little clips. And I trimmed, and I trimmed, and I trimmed, and I trimmed, and I trimmed like a landscaper. I was out there on the hedgerow, just going to town. It'd be the equivalent of twigs and leaves flying everywhere. And it still was like an hour and 47 minutes. I essentially shaved a whole hour off, and I felt like I couldn't shave any more off without it becoming just seriously disjointed. So I had to commit to it, and my God, it took like 12 hours to render it, because since Mixcraft doesn't natively read an MP4, it can't render an MP4. Again, with a codec pack, it can register an MP4 and then render that down into a WMV. But it can't render an MP4. So I would have to take my MP4s, stick them into Mixcraft, get them edited, put in whatever little sound effects or little, silly skits. I've been doing some kind of inserting silly skits into these. Render those down into a WMV, which a WMV is like massive. A 10-minute WMV is like 3 gigabytes. So, we're talking like 30 gigabytes of video. Then take that WMV, load it into Windows Movie Maker, who then has to load the 28.9 gigabytes of video to then render it back to an MP4 so that the 28.9 gigabytes is now like 3.9 gigabytes. And then I can go delete the WMV and clear that space back up on my computer. Because I don't have like a nice recording and editing software. I know that there are some that can do a really good job. And I've tried like Blender. I've tried editing in Movie Maker. They make no sense to me. Mixcraft is really made for audio editing, and it's great at audio editing. Not that great for video editing, but it shows up, well, you see the pictures, it shows up so nice and straightforward on the timeline. It is nowhere, it's very simple. And I'm a simple kind of man. So, you're talking like three and a half hours to render it to the MP4, then like another hour and a half, 2 hours to load it into Movie Maker, then another 3.5 hours to render it back to an MP4. I'm sorry, render it to a WMV, then to Movie Maker, then to MP4, then to upload. Yeah, it's like 12 hours. Well, that's just the rendering. It's probably like another 6. I think DDO took 8 hours to. No, it did take 12 hours. Yeah, because I did it when I went to bed, and I got up, and I went out to the store, and I came back, it was still rendering. So yeah, it was 12 hours to upload that. It was miserable. It was the most miserable moment since the Caesar 3 thing that clocked in at 2 hours. That was terrible. But DDO took longer to render than Caesar 3, because it had more stuff in it. So that was a lesson on never being too certain of myself, and also really watch the clock on on what I record. Lord of the Rings Online. Wow. This one was not a lesson on time management. I really did. I felt like I did a great job correcting my mistake with DDO for Lotro. It was a lesson in how plans can change. Because I had of all the videos I did, Lotro was the one I had the clearest vision for. I knew that I wanted to show off the Shire and questing through the Shire. I wanted to kind of basically just ignore the tutorial and just get right into it. But I said, I've done 3 videos now, and with the exception of RuneScape, which the tutorial is exceedingly short, but Lumbridge is kind of like an extension of the tutorial. They've all been in the tutorial. So I felt a little weird trying to skip it. And you can hear me talking about it through the video. Like, the gears are turning. It wasn't that my plans fell apart. It was that my plans changed direction. As in real time as I was making the video. And so I opted instead to just go ahead and kind of give it to you as you saw it. There are, some monetization things with Lotro that I don't like, but in large part, as I said, a lot of it is really just cosmetic. You can get XP boosts and all this other stuff. So in that sense, there is a pay-to-win component. But it's, you're not... I've heard people, make these big arguments about it. I really don't feel like that's what pay-to-win is. It's like... You've shaved off, 10 minutes of time because you spent that money, there are some quality of life things though that are locked behind a paywall, and that's a bit of a shame. Another game, you start off with 2 character slots. You get an extra 3 if you become a premium account. It was a free account in the DDO as well, because I don't think I actually mentioned it in the video. So I just want to point that out here. DDO was a free account as well. And they both function the same way. You get 2 character slots. Actually, no, DDO gives you 3. They do it in kind of reverse. Lotro gives you 2, DDO gives you 3. But if you become a premium, you end up with 5 slots. Which is very nice. Awesome. You also, for Lotro, you unlock additional bags. So in the video you saw I had 3 bags. You get 5 if you become a premium account. And what all the premium means, premium is not a subscriber. Premium means that you have been free to play, and then you have paid any amount of money. Now this, you could have gone on a $200 shopping spree in the game store, or you could have spent $5 on something, and then you will immediately be upgraded to a premium status and reap the benefits of that. However, Lotro, kind of like RuneScape, I had nothing but praises for Lotro until just a couple months before going to make the video. In fact, I was sweating bullets about it. I very briefly touched on it in the video because that was just not the place to really look at it. Lotro recently did a character model update on the race of man, the human faction in Lotro. And they have butchered the characters. This is again one of those arbitrary changes for the sake of having an arbitrary change. They don't look good. They don't match the rest of the game. And a large part of it is very obviously political. Women with beards and things of that nature. And Also, sort of like diversity, inclusion, very clearly like ethnic, Asian heritage, African heritage, and this is in Middle Earth. Middle Earth designed by Tolkien to be sort of a mythological, version of England. They don't match. Now, in the game, you already had the ability to, put like dark skin and certain faces, like facial shapes and whatnot on your characters in the character creation. That part really doesn't bother me, it just doesn't. Not, But the assets that they made to go along with these new changes do bother me. The inclusion of dreadlocks and cornrows. On the surface level, it's very superficial. The problem is they don't match. And I don't just mean having cornrows in Middle Earth is weird. I mean graphically. They don't match. They're clipped through the character model. They look like they were ripped out of some other game. They don't match at all. They don't, It's like when Blizzard made the Void Elves and their hair sticks straight forward off their chest and doesn't wrap to the character model. Like, it's the most lazy, haphazard, just slap that thing up in there for the sake of doing it bullshit. And there's so many more important things that are critical to fixing in Lord of the Rings Online. I'm very much a part of Lord of the Rings Online. The game has major lag issues. The servers are in dire need of having an upgrade. And this is what Standing Stone decides to spend its time on. I logged in one day and found my character butchered. I'm hot. I'm hot under the collar about this. I'm not about to beat around the bush and lie to you. I found my character butchered. Okay? My guy that I loved and played and spent money on went from looking like this to looking like this. It's fucking pathetic. And I eventually was able to do all these new sliders and things that they added in to get him looking something like this. But that doesn't change the fact that that's not my character. That is not my character. That's not the guy I designed. And you might notice in there, I don't know if it's super visible or not, there is a character, an avatar update button that you can turn off the new models and just showcase the old models. Let me tell you something. There are exactly two things that this button does. Jack and shit. It doesn't work. There is no going back to the old models. These things are locked in here. And it fucking pisses me off. I love the game. I love the world. I love the atmosphere it has cultivated. And I feel just kicked in the nads because my character was taken away from me for no reason. And I'll never get him back. They're sure as fuck not gonna reverse this update, which I wish they would. But they're not going to. The only thing I can keep my fingers crossed and hope is that they're not going to do this same level of just shit to the other character races. So they probably will. I hope they don't, but I've lost my character. 10 years. It's fucking bullshit. even with all that, I still want to recommend the game. I love the game. It just feels so bad that they decided to do this. I mean, it was such a bad move. Standing Stone made an announcement. They were like, we're going to have some minor updates to help quality of life. And then they pull that shit. That's their minor update. I still think, anybody interested should check out the game, but I would be a little weary about it for the time being until there's more concrete information about what exactly they're going to do, because Standing Stone has been pretty bad about actually communicating with the player base so far. Not gonna lie. Star Wars: The Old Republic. Oh, we're getting a cigarette going for this one. Star Wars. Let me tell you something about this. This pissed me off. And I mean, this pissed me off. No, we're not there yet. Oh. When I said in the video I had some stuff to talk about with Star Wars, I had some stuff to talk about. Let's go ahead and get into it. First and foremost, in the build-up to Star Wars, I had to obviously patch the game. Hadn't played it in years. I had played it years ago, and while I felt like it wasn't really necessarily the game for me, I did have fun with it. I remember having fun with it. I get the game patched, and I go to log in, and I can't log in. It says that my password is invalid. And I'm very confident it's the correct password, but it says it's invalid. So I say, well, all right, I guess I got to reset the password. I follow the link. It takes me to the SWTOR website. In order to reset my password, instead of putting in account information per se, it wants me to enter my display name. Now, I knew what my display name was because that was saved into the launcher. So I entered my display name. And it says, if you enter your display name and if your display name is associated with an account, it will send me an email. Well, clearly I have an account. I used to play. Clearly this is my display name associated with it because I've never logged in on anything else. I tell it to send me an email. It says, all right, if this is connected to your account, we'll send you an email. I waited around and never got an email. Did it again, never got an email. Tried going in and resetting the password. Resetting the display name. Well, for that, it said I had to enter the password, which was invalid. So then I did some reading, and it said that this was the Star Wars accounts were merged with your EA account. So if the SWTOR account and the EA account shared the same email, you could manage your SWTOR account by managing your EA account. So okay, I haven't been in my EA account in years, but all right, let's give this a shot. Got in very easily, actually. Got into the EA account. And I did everything it told me to do because it says these are connected now. So I do my SWTOR, I reset my password and my display name to match what they should be on SWTOR. It says that they're connected, so this should solve my problem, right? Wrong. I go back, nothing happens. Same issue. Nothing's happening. Just says it's invalid. I go looking for how to contact SWTOR. There is no information to be found except I finally find a chart on a Reddit page that has a screenshot from God only knows where of what phone number to call to get in touch with an EA representative on the SWTOR branch. And I'm leaving out a bunch of the back and forth I've already been through, as it bounced me back and forth between 3 different pages, one of which it bounced me to the page, said, we're sorry, this page no longer exists. If you were looking for this, follow this link to go here. I finally get a hold of somebody. The most shocking thing in the world, I didn't even wait 2 minutes. I'm not kidding you. I waited less than 2 minutes to actually get on call with customer service. Well, I thought I was going to have a heart attack right then and there. And I spoke with a very nice man. He was very nice, and he helped me out with my problem. Apparently, because I had never spent money on SWTOR, they deactivated my account. I had never at any point been a subscriber, and I had never spent a single dime on the in-game shop. So they just deactivated me because I never gave them a penny. And he had to reactivate me. That is just bullshit. That is utter just bunk. But okay, we got that taken care of. Got the password reset. Got everything reattached. I go to launch the game, and my screen goes jet black with a big thing in the middle that says, "Monitor signal out of reach." I can't change. It tells me to change the resolution to match my monitor. Now it's telling me my monitor is set to 1600 by 900. It's telling me to change the resolution. I can't change the resolution because it's stuck on this screen. I can hear the game running in the background. I kill the computer. I turn the power off, turn it back on. There's nothing I could do. I had to turn it off, turn it back on. Monitor signal out of reach. I can't even start the computer. I can't, I could type in the password when I hear it coming up. I can type in the password, and I can hear that it goes, da-da-da-da, that it's taking it and it's starting up. I can't see the screen to navigate a menu to get to the resolution. Have to get into safe mode to change the resolution. Come back, it's still busted. Have to go to safe mode again, and I have to set it to some ridiculous resolution. I'm talking like 1996 Macintosh, like 800 by 400. Oh my gosh. One icon took up like a quarter of my screen on my desktop, but I could finally get into onto the normal mode of my computer to get in there. I get in there, and I notice that the bottom of my taskbar is different. Well, okay, the resolution's been changed. The color preference has probably gone off on this. I'll just, when I get this all fixed, I'll just set that back. I can't set it back. It's stuck to Windows 7 Home Basic. I can't go to the arrow style. I can't get the monitor back to 1600 by 900. Because when I did, it blacked out again. Ended up having to get a second monitor plugged up. Now, the second monitor could go to 1600 by 900. So I said, okay, take the second monitor off, put the one I was working with back on. Suddenly, I have the option for... you can hear me clicking. I'm going to the control panel. I just want to see what was the number here. It was something that doesn't even exist here. Well, it was 14 something by 900. It was like 14 something by 900, and then a straight jump to 1920 by 1080, which I've never even seen that option on that monitor. There was nothing between 14 by 900 to 19 by 1080. It was just gone. I go and I look in. My graphics driver, which is a NVIDIA GeForce GT 610, was suddenly just called VGA VGA graphic standard VGA graphics adapter. That was it. Standard VGA graphics adapter. I go and I do a driver update on my graphics card, and the screen blacks out again. But I put the other monitor back, and it registered it. The game broke my graphics card. Well, it didn't break my graphics card. It broke my monitor. I don't know if I will ever get that monitor working again. It's still not working. I've been on a second monitor, a backup monitor, ever since doing it. So about, 1 week before the video went out. I go and I do some research on this. Apparently, the game is hard-coded to automatically start at just some incredibly funky resolution. And unlike other games, which will read your computer and auto-adjust them to something that is applicable, SWTOR will not. So I ended up having to go into the game's .ini files and manually inserting lines into the ini file to force it to open in windowed mode, to force it into a certain resolution, and essentially just force it to unfuck itself, just in order to record it and to play it. And I haven't even played it yet. This is all just getting to the goddamn game. And I'm sorry that I'm swearing so much here, especially at the end of the video, but not end of the video, but get to the later part of it. But this just, oh man, this pissed me shitless. And then I get into the game, and what do I find? There's only 5 servers now. They've cut down from, I forget how many there used to be, but now they're down to just 5 servers. North America East, North America West, Europe 1 and 2, and Asia. That's it. That is it. The character creation screen that you see in the video, where it's just this black background, that used to be like a really good screen with information on all the races and all the classes and everything, and it was like in some hangar bay sort of deal, not just this black blank background. There was no information on the races when I clicked on them. It was just like, click on the picture, there you go, dude with horns. Yeah, it used to tell you what the name of it was. It doesn't say that anywhere anymore. Just, oh yeah, dude with horns. Darth Maul guy, or dude with cyber optic. Is that a cyborg? It is a cyborg, but it used to tell it that. Doesn't say anything anymore. I don't know what's happened there. I get into the game. By and large, it plays the same, except it's got so many added pay restrictions. I remember dancing. And I remember cheering and hanging out with my friends when we played it very briefly. Now you either have to subscribe, be an active subscriber, or buy an emote pack. You have to pay to dance. You have to... You have to pay money for your character to dance. Most MMOs have a feature where you can hide your character's helmet, right? Because you want to be able to see what your character looks like, and maybe your helmet's ugly or something. So there's usually a button on your character sheet that you can hit to hide your helmet. You have to pay and purchase it sounded like a per character purchase for the ability to hide your helmet or be a subscriber. That is disgusting. I will say that if you pay any money to it at all, your account becomes a preferred account, just like most of the ones following this business model. And they are at least very generous there, where you go from having 4 characters, you get 12 character slots just by being a preferred account. Or it's a 10 character slots. It's a massive upgrade, you know, especially when you're thinking about like DDO and Lotro, and you go from, you know, having 2 to 5, you know, having, you know, 4 to 10, 4 to 12, something like that. They're very generous in that regard. And you don't have to pay or be a subscriber to actually complete the game, which is nice. But, oh my god, the amount of monetization in there is just, it's fucking disgusting, is what it is. It is, there's no other way to frame it. It is fucking disgusting. And to top it all off, I didn't even have fun playing it. I remember having fun with it. Not the best time in the world, but I remember kind of having fun with it. I thought maybe it was the stress of recording it or the stress of all the stuff leading up to it. So, you know, I tried playing like a different character, for a little while, and then tried playing a different character for a little while. And the disgusting BioWare style, and I shouldn't say disgusting BioWare style, but it doesn't feel like you're playing a Star Wars game. It feels like you are playing Mass Effect or Dragon Age with a Star Wars mod installed. That's what it feels like. The cutscene, the interactive cutscene conversations for everything in the game being so long, it feels like the actual gameplay of, you know, going out and doing a quest. It's like if you're watching a movie on TV and it's got commercial breaks. The doing the quest feels like the commercial break for the film of the dialogue sequences. It just wore me out. It was exhausting. And I like Star Wars, but I don't like it that much. If I wanted to play that, I'd just go play Mass Effect. I don't know. Like, I wanted to like it. And I didn't. Which was a stark contrast, going back to DDO for a second. DDO, I didn't think I was going to like it, and I kind of walked away liking it a little bit. In a way I didn't expect to. Whereas with Star Wars, I expected to, you know, because I did like it, I expected to have fun, and it was a rotten time. It was, oh god, it was rough, and it was not remotely worth it. And that's why there's a gigantic warning at the bottom of the description on that video of like, if you want to play it, this is what I had to do, and here's how you can too, you know. But, Jesus Christ. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up with the last video, EverQuest Project 1999. There's not much to say about it that I didn't say in the video already. It's an officially endorsed, or at least, you know, it has the official blessing by Sony to exist. It's a fan-run private server. Been around for years. Multiple servers hosted on it. The 3 main ones are Blue, which is PvE, and Red, which is PvP. And then they added Green, and I'm not really entirely sure on what exactly the biggest differences between Green and Blue are, other than I think Green just has more active, not development, they're just taking care of it more actively, I suppose. I don't know. I really don't know, because as far as I can tell, Green is the same thing as Blue. But apparently Blue is sort of where they do some beta testing for, like, is this feature going to work? And if, you know, they don't just automatically add it to Green. Like, if they're trying to get quests to work from the Scars of Velius or something, they don't just add it to Green. Now the game is absolutely amazing. It's bustling with players. I know in the video there's really not that many people on the journey. And I think at the end of the video I do talk about that. That there's not that many people that I actually bump into. I run into a couple, but that's because I was playing on blue, just because that's what I was used to. I should have played on green. I played on green. I rolled a character on green after making the video, and I was instantly surrounded by people, and I instantly had, so much cool stuff happen that would have been great to have in the video, but it it obviously didn't. No, it's just as magical and enchanting as, of course, EQ Live, but it's definitely its own creature. You can see how it evolved. Um, the intro video that I used for it, I say this in the video, but I want to go into more depth in it. I can remember so distinctly the first time I saw that on the home VHS release for A Knight's Tale. I can remember that, dun 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 dun, not in theaters, but on the internet, play as a noble knight, a fierce barbarian, a scheming wizard. I was so in love with that. I had no idea what it was. I couldn't read back then. It took me a long time to learn how to read. I'm dyslexic. It took me a long time to get a grasp on reading, so I wasn't reading that off the TV. And we lived out in the country. My mother knew what the internet was. I had no idea what the internet was. So, when it was like on the live on across the internet, it meant nothing to me as a kid. But I knew I was in love with it. I knew I wanted to play it, and I never did. I never played EverQuest until, gosh, it was probably 2012, maybe, was the first time I ever played it. Maybe 2010 was the first time I ever got to play EverQuest. And, of course, that would have been EQ Live. It wouldn't have been Project 1999. But, man. And I've gone back to it several times over the years and tried this and that, and just had fun with it. And then the Project 1999 thing, it's so cool to see something like that. It really is. It really is super cool to see something like that. And it's super cool to see a company like Sony give its blessing on something. I make a little jab at Blizzard in there. I make a jab at Blizzard in most of these videos because I'm not a fan of Blizzard, but I was, not anymore. But it is so cool to see a company give its blessing like that. And I wish more companies were like that. I really do. I do wish more companies were... softer is not the word, but kinder, I think. The world is struggling with for kindness right now, and we need more of that. Especially from these big corporations, that they're not going anywhere. So, relationships with them need to be symbiotic. But, what is there really to say about it? It wasn't terribly eventful. I waffled back and forth. I was originally going to... It's an old game, and it's got a very old mindset. You stand there and you kill shit until there's no point in killing shit anymore, and then you go to the next place that you can kill shit. And that, it is a grindhouse game. That is the point. You will be grinding on that thing like a stone. XP is hard to come by. The first rat or wolf you run, as you saw in the video, the first wolf you run into will probably kill you. After a certain point, I think it's level 4. After level 4, if you die, you actually start losing XP, and you can de-level. It's not just going to take you back to the start of that level and hit and like pause. You can actually level down in EverQuest, and it takes forever to do anything. So it's a journey, not destination kind of game. You know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I just didn't have the time to sit there and dedicate to like, oh, you know, here we are, and now we've gone from level 1 to level 2, and now look, you know, cut to this one. It's like 3 days later. Look at me, I'm level 6. You know, I didn't have time for that. So instead of starting in Freeport, I thought I would have this kind of journey to Freeport, and I sort of blew that. I forgot that it kind of runs through an open world dungeon. I was so looking forward to like completing that journey, and it stings. It does, it stings. But you know, as like I said in the video, not every journey, you know, ends in success, and it's not really about the destination. It is about the journey. I saw such wild things out there on the way, and my God, I got an appreciation for just how big those zones are. I mean, you got it in sort of clip, you know, little clips of me here and there. My God, those zones are massive. They are gigantic, and of course, there's no map. There's no map in the game. So you have to keep going to the Project 99 website and looking at the maps there and cross-referencing those hand-drawn maps, these third-party hand-drawn maps, to where you think you might be, and they don't necessarily match. It was a real adventure. I wish that I had a way, you know, I could hand out the discs, but I can't. I can't tell you where to go get them. I can't tell you where to go find them. Just say that, you know, anytime you're downloading something off the internet, obviously, please use common sense. You know, have antivirus programs running. You know, check it, triple check anything that you get, especially if you're going to torrent something. Oh my goodness. But you can probably find them fairly safely. You know, there's not exactly a whole bunch of people out there like, oh yeah, somebody's coming here looking for EverQuest Titanium Edition. Here comes the pigeon with all the money. You know, nobody's really looking to get you on that, but it's still just always be, you know, cautious and safe on the internet. But you do some searching and some research, you should find one fairly easy. And I did include a link to Daemon Tools. There's other programs you can use. It's not required. That's just the one I use to virtually mount an ISO. Or, of course, like I said, you could go buy the physical discs, which at the time that I looked at it was like $1,800. So, you know... But the website has a wonderful step-by-step guide on how to install it, and it's constantly updated with the latest patch that you'll need to put in, and you'll need to download the patch from the Project 99 website, their patch, specifically their patch. You know, follow those instructions to the letter, and you will be able to play in a magical world that I just don't think we're ever going to see anything quite like it anymore. I really don't. Well, you know, we're coming up here on about an hour and 10 minutes. We just hit an hour 8, just there. I guess that's gonna just about do it. This has been such a wonderful exercise. I've learned so much about video editing. I'm reminded of an episode of The Angry Video Game Nerd, where James Rolfe, who plays the nerd, was talking about how he's gotten so used to editing that, you know, he often just does stuff in 2 takes. And for him, 9 times out of 10, the second take is the one he wants. And so when he's scrubbing through, the audio, he can see that there's 2 roughly identical wavelengths. He knows that that's 2 takes of the same line. He'll just scrub out the first one and not even bother listening to it. And I used to think that that was just like black magic, witchcraft. And now I kind of get it. I mean, I'm by no means am I some kind of, master editor, and I, certainly don't have anything that's, not running Sony Vegas or Adobe Premiere or anything like that. But I kind of get it. It makes a lot more sense now, and I've always had a passion for filming and filmmaking, and video editing is part of all that. It falls into that same umbrella, that family, and this has been really great. As I said at the start, I'm not saying I won't do more in the future, but I think 6 is a good number to stop at for right now. So, with all that said, thank you everybody for joining me here on the Mystery Channel. I've been your host, Mr. E. Next month is the 1-year anniversary, so you better believe 1st of July. I'll be seeing you all again real soon. Bye-bye, y'all, and take care.